Overwatch is so densely packed with fantastic gameplay, you might not have noticed a bunch of secrets that Blizzard has hidden in the game. Number 1. You can find Genji's room in Nepal. It's easy to tell that Nepal is Zenyatta's hangout, what with the floating robot monk statues everywhere and all, but what the game doesn't tell you up front is that it's Genji's home too. After being mortally wounded in a fight with his brother Hanzo and patched up with cybernetics, Genji came to Nepal to find peace with his old self in a new prosthetic reality. That's where he came under the mentorship of Zenyatta, and the two have been close ever since. You can hear them refer to this relationship in the pre-game chatter if you listen closely. Since Nepal is Genji's adopted home, he figured he'd find a place to carve out for himself, and sure enough, you could find one of Nepal's 3 controlled mode maps. On the Nepal map known as Village, which you might know as the one where the control point is a tiny room of death, near the control point on the 2nd floor you can find a peculiar room decorated with recognizable artifacts. On the right you can find a painting that should look familiar. Sword-wielding brother? Check. Bow and arrow bro? Check. Giant dragon? You bet. It's not a coincidence, this all seems like a direct call-out to the Shimada family. On the left we can see a certain sword, and on the right, it's a snapshot of babyface Hanzo and babyface Genji in better days. Relics of Genji's past tell us that he still values part of his life, including the brother that tried to murder him. Number 2, there's a giant dancing robot in Volskaya Industries. I don't know if you noticed, but outside of the Volskaya Industries map there's a ton of giant robots. They're all part of Russia's Savatogar mech program, built to protect the country from the threat of asshole omnics like Bastion. It's tricky, but you could even catch one mech pilot doing the robot and pulling off some moves in the furthest edge of the background. Number 3, plenty of movie and TV references. Winston's Don't Get Me Angry directly acknowledges the similarities of his rage mode with Bruce Banner's hulking out. In Route 66 there's a King of the Hill reference, Deadlock propane and propane accessories. There's even a clever reference to the Bill Murray favorite Groundhog Day, found in Route 66 Diner. In Groundhog Day, when pulled over by the cops, Murray jokes with the arresting officer by starting up a drive-thru offer.
Too early for flapjack?
And somebody at Blizzard is apparently a fan. Some references are a bit older. Some Like It Bot is a dead ringer for the Marilyn Monroe classic Some Like It Hot, down to the instruments and high heels. The last one's a bit shaky, but someone brought up a convincing link between Overwatch and Big Hero 6. On the left you can see Zenyatta's Hello emote, which is a circular wax-on wave. It also happens to be the exact same way that fellow robot Baymax waves hello. It might be a coincidence, but the two synthetic lifeforms are pretty similar in personality and vocal cadence, and the connection is just too tough to deny. All we know is, now I want Baymax in Overwatch, and I will never be happy again. Number 4, a touching tribute to a deceased fan. Blizzard has a history of honoring fallen fans by representing them in-game, including the now tragic story of Woo Hung-yu, a 20-year-old fan who was notorious among his friends for being a big fan of Captain America and, of course, video games. One day before Overwatch was set to release, Hung-yu was killed when he tried to stop a thief from stealing his friend's motorcycle. Following his death, local government bestowed Hung-yu with the Courageous Citizen Award, and Overwatch developers planted this lovely tribute in Lijiang Tower. On the display of spacesuits, the centerpiece rings Hung-yu in Chinese characters. The words above the suit roughly translate to Immortal Hero, or as Mercy would say,
Heroes never die!
Number 5, Animated Aftermath. If you haven't checked out the Overwatch animated shorts yet, you really owe it to yourself to set aside a few minutes and watch them. Not only are they entertaining and well produced, but each short has visible impact on the map in which they take place. These details really help the levels feel like they have some meaning and history beyond one time a Junkrat killed 4 people with his ult here. The Genji Hanzo focus short Dragons is set on what players will recognize as the Hanamura map. This is where the Shimada brothers throw down. In addition to some shredded lanterns and ninja stars stuck in the wall, you can see an arrow meant for Genji's head still stuck in the ground. You can't remove the arrow by shooting it, so for now it's a permanent scar on an otherwise lovely wood paneling. Then there's the short Alive, in which Widowmaker successfully pulls off her assassination mission. Mandata was one of Zenyatta's allies, a peaceful figure that was championing unity between man and machine. Widowmaker smiled as she gunned him down. Now a martyr, Mandata greets players on King's Row in giant golden statue form. It's kind of ironic given what the payload of King's Row contains, but we'll get to that later. Maybe the most fun of the shorts, Recall, stars a lonely Winston twiddling his thumbs as Reaper and his goons come to call. The short takes place in the attacker spawn of Watchpoint Gibraltar, and it's easy to spot Winston's office and the window through which he chucked a hapless merc. True to form, Winston's desk is still covered in jars of peanut butter. Number 6, shameless Blizzard developer cameos. Over in the crew quarters of the Gibraltar map, you can find what appear to be the names of several developers. Programmer Paul Pinto can be seen to the left, and senior environment artist Paul Clevistaff snuck his way in there in the middle. Blizzard was a little sneakier with the arrivals board at the Numbani airport. In general, it's a pretty expected mix of imaginary places like Dorado and Numbani combined with real-world locales like New York and Tokyo, but others stick out oddly. Why would the Cork, Ireland airport be featured over the Dublin airport? Doesn't Irvine, California airport even exist? The explanation, of course, is that several of these locations correspond to Blizzard offices, specifically Irvine, Cork, Seoul, Paris, Austin, Shanghai, and San Francisco. And of course, it totally makes sense that Irvine, the headquarters of a company that likes to take its time, would have the only flight on the list that's delayed. Number 7. The secret stories behind those payloads you're escorting. Overwatch doesn't exactly tell you what you're doing most of the time. Sure, you're told to attack Objective A or escort the payload, but what exactly does that mean? The answers aren't found in any kind of narrative-driven campaign, but details are tucked away in the environments. Watchpoint Gibraltar is probably the easiest one to figure out. The payload is literally labeled satellite drone. If that doesn't give it away, there are some other hints dead center. As we established earlier, the attacking team on Gibraltar starts in Winston's lab, complete with broken window. You can find all sorts of suits and gadgets lying around, but the most important part here is the blackboard. Written in chalk, you can find step-by-step instructions for what exactly escorting the payload means. In this case, it's guiding a satellite drone to a rocket at the end of the level, which will reactivate the members of Overwatch, some of which will already be helping escort the payload. Each escort mission is a little different, however. On Dorado, the attacking team is tasked with moving a rusty old hover truck that's hauling a large and mysterious device to a large and mysterious pyramid-shaped building. Some supplementary material on Blizzard's site tells us that the building is a power plant supplying clean energy to the city. And judging from the large monitors on one of the side rooms, the device being escorted in this case is some kind of battery or energy coil. When it comes to Route 66, the payload is regular old live ordnance variety. But how it got there is a bit more interesting. Attackers on Route 66 begin in a diner that seems to have been a hideout for the Deadlock Gang, McCree's previous posse. Even though their comrade left for Overwatch, they were still up to their old tricks. On the right side of the diner, you can see a detonator and blueprints for what appears to be specifically placed charges designed to blow up a bridge. Sure enough, that part of the level is covered in wrecked train cars. The payload in this case would be the target of this high-stakes heist, likely a bomb of some kind. Other payloads are a little more transparent about their contents. On Numbani, you can clearly see what appears to be the Doomfist gauntlet encased in an indestructible cylinder on the payload. Those who remember the original Overwatch animated short will recognize the device as an object valued by the bad guys like Reaper and Widowmaker. But there are also plenty of posters of Doomfist around Numbani, hinting at a series of owners for the gauntlet. Hopefully one or all of these Doomfist wielders will be playable at some point. The most disturbing payload, however, has to be the one at King's Row. There aren't a whole lot of hints in-game about the vehicle you're escorting, but Junkrat does have a pre-game voice line when attacking on the map.
So we're delivering a bomb to scrap some bots, and I'm getting paid for it.
So you're blowing up some robots? Zenyatta doesn't sound like he'd be cool with that. But the developers confirmed in an interview that what you're doing is driving into the home of the local Omnic population and nuking them all with an electromagnetic pulse. Ever notice that electric crackle and blue explosion when you win a match on King's Row? That's the EMP. Rigging a satellite and restoring power to a city seems like an admirable mission, but nuking a neighborhood of innocent robots in an act of terror straight up is made all the more disturbing by the possible involvement of Omnics like Zenyatta and Bastion. Even if you win your assault on King's Row, you still kinda lose. Number 8. Diablo references everywhere. Multiple Diablo in-jokes can be spotted at the Route 66 diners, such as the display of Diablo hot sauce. Squint hard at one of the checks on the wall and the hot sauce sign and you can make out a familiar name. That's the signature of none other than Deckard Cain. The date the check was written is notable too. May 15th, 2012 is the release of Diablo 3. Jumping over to Hollywood for a second, check out the branding on the trailer at the end of the map. No doubt that's a reference to Diablo's Avenging Angel Tyrael. I guess it has a better ring to it than Winnebago. And finally, you can find another call out to Diablo in the Dorado level, only this one looks a little bit different. One of the many colorful shootable pinatas strewn throughout the map was crafted in the visage of Mr. Box Art himself. And this time, his loot is edible. Number 9, there's a couple of Hearthstone Easter eggs too. No doubt you've noticed the abandoned workstations with Hearthstone playing on their monitors. They can be found on several maps, and they're not exactly hiding it. Forget for a minute that it's a total dick move to leave in the middle of a match. There's another Hearthstone reference that you might have missed. Regular playing cards are scattered about maps like Route 66, only these have Hearthstone card backs. Yep, even when Blizzard characters play poker, they're still playing Hearthstone. Number 10, inevitable StarCraft nods. The arcade machines in Hanamura's attack spawn area are barely worth mentioning as hidden details or Easter eggs. They're pretty much screaming their references in your face. A little easier to miss, however, is the name and logo of the arcade, found right outside. Under 16-bit Hero stands a pixelized version of Raynar from the StarCraft series. Even the Zerg get representation. In the attacker spawn for Temple of Anubis, a mounted skull of a Zerg Hydralisk rests on the wall. It has confusing and frankly terrifying implications for the Overwatch universe, but it's there all the same. The countertop of Route 66 Diner seems to fly in the face of the shared universe hints. Craft from the Stars sounds like something your grandma might call StarCraft, but that's the title of a comic that features renderings of Craner and Kerrigan straight from the official Blizzard promo art. Look over the counter and at the soda fountain and there's yet another Zerg shoutout. Furthest over to the right, that's the symbol of the Zerg race. A couple of spigots over to the left is a delicious sounding beverage called Dr. Boom. but we'll get to more Warcraft references later. Number 11, the Lost Vikings get their due. The Lost Vikings are kind of the red-headed stepchildren of the Blizzard universe. Their last game releasing on the SNES about 2 decades ago, but the trio of spacefaring ruffians have recently resurfaced in the MOBA mashup Heroes of the Storm. On the Walk of Fame in Hollywood near the attacker spawn, a few names stick out: Olaf Stout, Eric Swift, and Baliog Fierce. Number 12, World of Warcraft, of course. Naturally, WoW is well represented in every corner of Overwatch. The cameras in Hollywood appear to be branded Kilrog, as a nice tribute to one of the World of Warcraft orcs, Kilrog Deadeye, but at the same time, it's also kind of an insult. See, many of the movie posters around the map have been branded that they were filmed in amazing Kilrog Vision 3D, which is ironic because as someone with only one eye, Kilrog probably can't really enjoy 3D movies. All the same, it's still pretty neat that one of the Kilrog cameras follows the payload through the map. The Horde gets more face time in the Temple of Anubis. They're pretty much everywhere. The symbol for the Horde is carved alongside hieroglyphics on the map. You don't have to look hard since it seems to be on every surface at the second control point. Unfortunately, where there's the Horde, Despicable Alliance scum must follow. The Hollywood map is set at the Goldshire Picture Studio lot, which prominently features the Alliance symbol as its own crest. Goldshire itself is certainly derived from the human town of the same name, seen in the early game when playing World of Warcraft. The name of the putrid Alliance scum is plastered everywhere on the map, from the movie posters to street signs. A giant noodle-guzzling Murloc greets you outside the Hanamura Arcade, the apparent mascot for Rikimaru Ramen. Then there's the ship on the Temple of Anubis. Do Overwatch ships have bombshell ladies or angry sharks? Nah, just feisty Murlocs, complete with textualized versions of the trademark gurgling. Like Zerg, Murlocs seem to exist at least in some form in the Overwatch universe. You could even find some on the Hollywood map. That looks like a box for Rikimaru Ramen, complete with a UFO driving Murloc. Now that's a hero that we'd like to see in game. Number 13, the Easter egg that Blizzard doesn't want you to see. Overwatch went through tons of changes from beta up to release, and continues to see tweaks in content and balance. One change fans noticed, however, was a little different. In an early version of the game, one of the outhouses on Route 66 had an extra feature. Namely, there were magazines in there. Magazines with, photos of Overwatch females. This strongly implies the local no-good nicks of the Deadlock game were using the likeness of Mercy and Symmetra as spank material. Not long after the folks at Reddit spotted this lewd masturbation Easter egg, it was excised from the game. Go to that same outhouse now and there's nothing in it. Maybe the Deadlock gang finally figured out that you could take your cell phones into the crapper. So it makes you wonder whether an artist snuck those magazines in there without the knowledge of some key members of the team. Judging by the reaction to the whole Tracer butt pose debacle, someone higher up probably thought the detail didn't line up with their vision of the game. It's probably for the best, because if the Easter egg still existed, we'd probably all still be arguing about it, instead of complaining about assholes who pick Sniper on Attack Escort.